If you're frustrated by Unleash the Hounds, you can build decks to crush these decks. But I know that people are.
They might be terrible against everything else, but yeah, you can definitely do that. The percentages of hunters right now you're seeing a ladder with your stats. Is it crossed the threshold where it might be a problem or no?
Um, I don't think that right now hunters are at the point at which we feel like we need to make a change today.
Okay, gotcha.
Along that line of having percentages for every class played, do you, let's see, do you believe that these classes haven't been fully explored, or do you also, I guess I'll mix in a second question to that, are you trying to give those classes that are currently underplayed a bit more love with the Naxxramas release, perhaps filling in some of their problem areas, adding in neutral cards which have synergy with their class, etc.?
Like the
Priest and
priest,
Paladin mostly.
like the priest, and the paladin. Yeah,
Priest
paladin
Priest
too.
and Paladin.
Paladin's been getting some hate. I mean, just
Well, I'll tell you that we're definitely gonna change everything. So the meta that you're used to today is with Nax. It's going to be totally different. There's just even one new class card and that many new neutral cards. There's a bunch of new deck types that'll, I think, be very interesting. And so it's tough to talk about the Naxxramas world in relation to what it looks like today, I think. But when you talk about classes that have been that are unexplored, do I think things are unexplored? I think absolutely. I go on different sites every day to read about these new deck builds. And someone's like, "Hey, I just got the legend with this crazy deck that no one's seen before, and with this class that nobody plays, and then it like suddenly becomes hyper popular, and that's all I'm playing. It's on the ladder for a couple days, and it's absolutely true that there's things that nobody has tried yet. There's deck types that maybe were popular once upon a time, and then people started to counter it, and then nobody's countering that anymore. They're countering this thing, and that's good again. Or there's other new strategies that no one's played. I mean, I know people who have hit legend and high legend ranks with every class and with crazy different types
true.
of decks, and even as recently as yesterday. So it's things definitely are changing constantly. I do think a lot of things are unexplored, and I think that's what's exciting about collectible card games. Honestly, somebody said to me, I forget who it was, maybe it was at a company event recently, that video games are the only type of art that you can create that surprises you. Like if you make a painting and you look at it, you're like, I made that. I understand what that is, but you can make a video game and then players will do stuff and you're like, what? I didn't design every interaction and every deck in the meta and every variant of the meta. You know what I mean? And that's what is so exciting because nobody knows. Nobody, not us, not you guys. Nobody knows like what the right decks are at any given moment, and people are being creative and trying new things, and so it's changing every day. It's really exciting.
is there a deck that you have tried personally that hasn't really ever showed itself in the metagame?
I like to make a lot of new crazy decks. I'm not sure that any of my decks are worthy of being metagame defining.
Right.
But I try new things every once in a while. I'll tell you, I definitely have called certain cards and combination of cards that I felt like were much better than they were getting credit for, and then they became kind of meta-defining movements at some point.
Right.
So maybe
Like
like a quick question.
King Mukla is better than people think, and I know he got played in the Kalento deck for a little while anyway, and I was like, yes, finally, Mukla has its
Yeah,
day.
people play Mukla. What do you think about Malygos? Malygos is
Yes, I've
becoming
been playing
popular
it.
right now.
Yeah,
I've been playing that a lot,
right
actually.
before I came over here, someone was like, "Bro, you gotta try this rogue deck with Malygos. It's super
That's the one
fun."
I've been playing. It's
I put it
awesome.
together, and I'm like, "Oh, okay, this is good. I like it." It's so cool to see, especially legendaries that people are like, "Oh, you should totally dust that guy. You get this other guy," and then they come up and people are like, "Oh, you should totally play Malygos and Mukla. Like these are so good. It's
Alakir
great."
is the best example. Like everybody was dusting Alakir in the beginning, and then
Man,
somebody
Alakir
just
super underrated as a legendary. I think he's now people are playing him, but back in the day, people were like, "This is the worst. How come you made him so bad? How come you made Alakir so bad?" And then now everyone's like, "Oh, Alakir's really good."
and there were no
Alakir.
changes to Alakir, so
Right,
it's the
exactly.
same card.
Yeah.
I'll tell
I
you,
think it's so beautiful.
we almost buffed Alakir because I was getting so much feedback during our alpha test that I was like, okay, we get complaints from our top level players every day about Alakir. They're like, please make this guy good. And then we're like, okay, let's do this. And then I looked at the stats, and he was our highest legendary from win rate in the alpha. And if we didn't have those back end stats, we actually would have made, I think, a pretty terrible mistake.
Oh man.
But just being able to look and see, like, okay, if you draw Alec here, you're going to win 67% of the time, or I don't know, I'm making up numbers, but, and this is back in the alpha, the game was totally different back then, but having those back end numbers really helps us like understand like the feedback that we're getting and then the reality of what's actually happening. And so it's super helpful.
What were you gonna do to it? I mean, I'm curious. Like, were you gonna give it 5, make it a 5-5 or something like that?
We're going to make it a 3-7 or something.
Oh wow. Okay.
That would have been ridiculous. It was a mistake.
that would have been
Didn't
cool.
do it.
Yeah. That would be a mistake.
Wow. Thankfully you didn't do it. That would have been crazy. Jeff, you got another question you're about to ask?
Yeah, I mean, we were just talking about the meta. So looking forward, are any of those new cards going to be influenced by the current meta game? Like anything put in to try to deal with, instead of just actively nerfing or buffing cards now, just adding in cards in the future to deal with cards now?
Sort of. So I think one of the things that we can do to make the metagame feel more vibrant, even, I mean, I don't know if we can make it feel more vibrant. It's like crazy vibrant right now. But is put more counters in to certain deck strategies. Like I actually think that cards like Big Game Hunter and Black Knight are super healthy, because if certain decks start getting too good and you can expect things, then you can put things in your deck because you expect people to be running these things. And then the decks that are running counter meta actually start becoming better as well, because people are running these things to counter these things, and nobody's expecting these rogue decks to come in. And I mean rogue in the TCG sense, not the class WoW sense, the surprising decks. So we are putting more of those types of things into Naxxramas. Things that, like, oh, I'm frustrated by decks that are doing this type of strategy or using this type of mechanic. And there's going to be some new cards specifically designed to help players have more tools. And there's not, like, the set is mostly about death and death rattle, but there are some cards that have nothing to do with death or death rattle. They're just there because they're either super exciting or because they help with players who want to tune their deck specifically against matchups they're frustrated by or want to do better against.
So maybe can we, like, you might not be able to answer that question, but can we expect secrets and counters to secrets in Naxxramas?
I don't want to spoil any of the things.
Okay. That's why.
There's exciting stuff for everybody in Naxxramas, but I don't want. If I say anything about what types of things we're doing, it'll suck all the surprise out of it.
Right, exactly. Last week we had Renaud on, and Renaud, Trump, and I were discussing just the new cards, and Renaud mentioned that Zoo seemed like it would be even stronger just based on just the 5 cards we saw there, and it had a lot to do with the Warlock's hero power. And generally, I think the hero power really is conducive for an aggro type of deck, because you can just keep drawing cards, right? Is that an issue right now from a standpoint of taking a look at that sort of thing? Just the hero power. The hero power. I don't think the hero power needs to be changed today. No. Okay. I think what's actually super exciting about Warlock is how many different viable strategies there are to play that class. Right.
I mean, you don't even know what type of Warlock deck you're up against when you see a Warlock, because you could play it Rush, you could play it Control, you could play it kind of with these crazy Giants versions. And so I think that's really exciting. I think the more we have of that kind of thing, the better. But it's really tough to talk about whether this type of deck or this type of deck will be good in the post-Naxxramas world, because there are so many new cards that are just going to change everything. So I can't really talk about whether Zoo is going to be better with Naxx cards or worse with Naxx cards. You've seen a couple Naxx cards, but you haven't seen the vast majority of them yet, and there's some really exciting stuff there.
Right.
All right, well, let's talk about the now. So we alluded earlier to Unleash the Hounds. Are there any other cards that are on your watch list right now?
Yeah, there's a couple, but because we're unlikely to change them, I think we just having them on our watch list just makes us think about them. Maybe not to change the card at all, but maybe to think about Naxxramas or future expansions and what kinds of counters we want to have in those expansions. So we have a couple cards on our watch list. I think there's like 3 or 4 right now that we're thinking about, and not necessarily, like I said, to change them, but just to kind of keep our eye on what the meta is doing. And, are there any cards that are kind of unfun that we could make more fun, or put counters in to make players feel better about having to face those cards? And that's the kind of stuff that we're thinking about. but I don't want to talk about exactly what cards those are because they may and probably won't change, and they're mostly informing future design.
Okay, I like the calculated and studied approach to these changes because there's back in the beta, I actually thought there might have been some cards that were changed a bit too hastily. In fact, maybe now they're a bit weak. I don't know. Have you reflected on those in the past? I know it was a beta and whatnot, but I know some people were surprised in particular by the sweeping nerfs of, say, mages, like the freeze mage.
freeze.
And this is like a few months back.
Yeah.
And who knows,
There's-
maybe that would have been viable now. Thoughts?
Well, I think those specific changes, while the mage was very powerful, were actually made not for power level reasons, but for fun level reasons. And that same reason we changed mind control. Playing against that particular deck, if you guys obviously played back then, but if any of the listeners played back then, I mean, a lot of times you'd play minion, and the mage would freeze it, and like a lot of the times you'd almost never get to attack the whole game. They would just kill you before you did anything. And one of the things that makes Hearthstone fun is what Dodds likes to call little victories. I don't know if you've heard him say that, but basically the concept of like I may lose this game, but I got to do awesome stuff. I got to like hit you in the face and kill your dudes and raise my guy and attack twice with him, and you didn't win, but you felt good about it. You felt like you got to do some cool stuff, and hope maybe you did win. I don't know, but that concept of those little victories helps keep the game fun even when you're losing. And if you take that away, I think that's when Hearthstone becomes potentially frustrating. And so that mechanic, that whole mechanic freeze, was, especially in the way that it presented in that deck, just took away for a lot of players the little victories and made losing less fun. Anyway,
Can you see a way to integrate that back into the game? Because I feel like a freeze mechanic is really cool, just from the standpoint of the design of the game. Yeah, I can see why it's considered unfun, but I feel like it's such a huge part of the mage design too.
no, certainly, and I think some cards that freeze are fine, like Water Elemental. I think
sure.
is exactly this. I think it's very interesting. Even Frostbolt. You have to think about what the freeze does in combat, or whether you're going to freeze the hero. Or I think that's actually kind of interesting. It's these mass whole board freezes that are super cost efficient, and especially ones that are also damaging your board at the same time in a class that can AoE everything down, because you kind of have that tension. Do I play more guys so that he can't kind of cold me, but then he flame strikes me? Ah! So
Yeah.
that was the thing that we were trying to crush, is these unfun strategies at that point. But did we overreact in other places maybe and over nerf things? It's possible. The thing that we were trying to do during the beta was get to a stable balance environment so that we could stop changing cards. We really wanted players to have faith in the cards and start trying to solve the meta, as opposed to giving up on it and waiting for balance changes. I think that's a much healthier approach to the game. And so our approach was get there as quick as possible, and if some cards have to die on the altar of balance, that's okay. We're going to make tons of new cards. Our plan is to make lots of new cards with the 30 Naxx cards. We have expansions planned for the future, so there will be plenty of cards that are exciting and fun. If this one card is broken now and we have to nerf it to make the game more fun, to get to that stable environment, that was kind of what we were thinking is the best thing to do.
So, like, getting back on your perspective on the game design, where you want to have players going back and forth, trading blows, and having fun together, what are your thoughts on Miracle Rogue, which is extremely fun and difficult to play, but creates this kind of environment that you spoke of, that your opponent is just sitting there and waiting for an unleashed
General
damage.
OTK. It's almost just an OTK kind of design, right?
Yeah, I mean, that kind of thing where there isn't that little victories and you're not getting to do cool stuff is frustrating. I'm not sure that that's exactly that type of thing, because you're still getting to do cool things against Miracle Rogues. You're still getting to do your combo or play your guys. I most of my time spent these days is on Naxxramas polish. I'm trying to make sure all the missions are fun and beatable, because some of them are maybe
Right.
too hard right now. So our balance team is focused on more of that kind of stuff. So I haven't. I just started playing with this new rogue deck today, and I don't have a ton of experience playing with the current Miracle Rogue setup. So it's hard for me to give you my thoughts on whether or not it's passing that line of fun or not.
Okay, so like getting back to Naxxramas, and you mentioned your balance team. So right now you introduce a new mode into the game, adventure mode.
Mm-hmm.
So when you release new cards, you will have like arenas to balance, constructed to balance, adventure mode to balance as well. So how do you split your time and between your team, and how are you prioritizing the things with regards to the balance of the new cards influencing all those different modes?
Well, they are mostly worried about constructed, and we play a bunch of arena as well. And actually, the thing that we've been focused on for probably a lot of the time is actually growing this balance team. For a very long time, it was me and Eric Dodds, and we were trying to do all of this stuff. And it's just when we took years to build a set. Maybe that's okay.
Right.
And when you have a long beta period too.
Oh yeah, that's fine. Somebody's running. Sorry.
Wow.
You have years to balance a set and use and have a long beta period to expose things that we didn't have time to crack with just within our company. Then you can maybe get away with two guys worrying about balance. But now we're planning to have regular content. And we're planning on, not having beta stuff, just going out with balanced cards right off the bat. And so we need dedicated, amazing balance designers. And so we've been slowly ramping this team up, and we continue to ramp it up going forward. And so that's kind of been our biggest focus almost as a balanced team. And then also worrying about Naxx balance and how, what kinds of things do we need in Naxx to help make sure that the metagame stays balanced and that these cards aren't broken. But we also, the nice thing about missions is that we're trying to balance them for kind of everyone. And so really everyone helps give us feedback on is it fun? Could I beat it? Do I want it to be a little harder, a little easier? And so we're getting feedback not just from our hardcore balance guys on those, but everybody. Everybody's a good balance designer when it comes to the missions.
Yeah, what is the internal process for that? This is good. This is definitely the first part of that question as to what you guys do. You definitely have a team. Do you present them a card and then just kind of like have them go at it for a few days, or do you sit around a table and discuss it and then just kind of base it on just y'all's expertise and that sort of thing, or do you have maybe even just like a sample group that comes, or a test group that comes in, just a folks like us, and we go and get a chance to play it for a little bit, like a day or two, and then you get feedback from them?
The current way that we do it is actually there's a couple pockets of feedback groups throughout the company. Mm-hmm. We have this great group of guys who are just super good gamers that we I think they're the guys who help balance the WoW raids. They're like really hardcore WoW raiders, and they also help us balance Hearthstone cards. And they just play a bunch of games, and they give us a bunch of feedback, and that's been super helpful. We also have a strike team, which basically every Blizzard game gets a strike team, and it's just people from everywhere in the company, ranging from players who are kind of new to the genre and players who are really good, and they play a lot and give us lots of feedback. And then we also have now this balanced team on our team who's like making changes and trying new things, and like what if this is 4 costs instead of 5 costs, or what about this? And those guys are playing every card. They're trying lots of decks. They're watching tons of streams to keep an eye on what's happening in the live metagame today, and they're playing on the ladders. These guys are legend level players right now on the ladders, and when they think about, okay, we've got these new cards that we want to make. How do we test them to make sure they're balanced? A lot of times they're looking at like risky mechanics, things that they, through their experience over time, have learned, like, okay, this is because we made this card, a year ago and it was really broken. Maybe this version of it will be less broken, but we got to test it a lot and with these other things. And so really these guys just have a ton of experience balancing complex systems. And they kind of got this intuition as to what could be broken and what needs to be tested quite a bit.
Okay, great. Jeff, any more questions?
That was a super long answer.
No, that was a great answer,
not too much information.
Oh yeah, that's really cool to hear that you guys definitely sound like you know what's going on. Along with that bigger team, what about some cool new features like obs mode or replays? Is that on the foreseeable horizon at all?
Yes.
Well, I'll tell you that pretty much there's going to be more of everything. There's going to be more cards, going to be more features. We were laser focused on getting Hearthstone shipped on all these different platforms on PC, Mac, and iPad, and now we're launching more platforms. We're working on more features, working on more cards. Specifically about Observer Mode, we are actively researching the types of things that we want to be involved in that and how to do it, and that's something that we're looking at the foreseeable future. I'm not sure what timeline that equates to, but we're definitely, it's on our plate right now.
Okay, great. Yeah, I'm super excited about that. I can't wait for that. Obviously, a lot of people are. And either of you guys have any more balance questions, or we can maybe move on to some cool news that's been going on?
Well, it will be really interesting to see, like, after you ship Nax in full, how it will actually look at the metagame, because you had a lot of time to actually test the core set. Like, you were building it for years, and then there was testing for a long time as well. And here it's like, seems like a shorter period of time when the set is being released without like test realm or something. So
Right.
it will be pretty interesting to see how it turns out. But I'm really excited for that.
Yes, it's going to be different because it's shorter. There's no beta period, but we have been working on Nax for a long time. Actually, it's been many months in development. I think we had almost all the Nax cards locked down way before we shipped live Hearthstone. So we've had a lot of time to play with them, and we have this incredible balance team now. So I'm much more confident in the balance of Naxxramas than I was when we went open beta with original Hearthstone. Not to say that they'll be exactly perfect and there will never be a change, because you never know. Players are much more creative than, like, there's millions of players, and there's right now there's only a few of us, so we could make mistakes, but we're trying really hard to make sure that these are balanced and fun and feel very powerful, and hopefully we hit that mark.
All right, well, let's move on. Let's move on to some of the other cool news going on involving Hearthstone. And first off, the iPad launch. Right now, it's pretty much fully released in a lot of the big countries. Still some other places where it can still be launched, but it's top 10, I think, in all those regions, of course, and that's really exciting because the mobile users are large and much larger than the PC, even console type of realm. So this is kind of the first I don't know, kind of the first Blizzard title, at least, that's really endeavored into this, and it's really, really cool. So I kind of want to get your thoughts on just the whole iPad launch.
It's awesome. It's like the best thing ever. When the iPad came out, I was like, oh my gosh, we have to make Hearthstone for this. This is going to be crazy. And it's to see it actually come true is bonkers. I can't even tell you how excited I am I'm a little bit of an Apple fanboy. Sorry to anybody who hates Apple fanboys, but I love my iPad. I use it all the time. I play in my bed constantly, and it just changes everything. I can't talk up enough how freaking excited I am to be able to play Hearthstone on my tablet. It's crazy, and it's going to get even crazier when we go on phone later this year. It's just nuts, and it's so exciting to see it's weird to call tablet players mobile because they don't feel very mobile to me. The tablet audience see Hearthstone and realize how much freaking work went into this game and how much love and polish and we worked so hard to make it awesome and feel really it's a real full game that is not as common, I guess, on the App Store, and so we were so excited to see people really love it and get excited about its appearance there.
Any design decisions that you had to make based on just the touch aspect of it and just really the usability of a device like the tablet?
Not so much design decisions, but it kind of took we had to think differently about the game as we were making it, because we knew we were going to go on iPad eventually, and so we would start to design a user interface, and then we're like, okay, how do you how do you see the mana curve for this? And then someone would say like, oh, what if you mouse over the deck? And then Gabe, who's working on the iPad version, is like, what's a mouse over? And we were like, oh shoot, I gotta think. So
Right.
we had to make sure that as we were designing these features for PC, that we were also thinking about what that would mean when we start working on or have to make that feature work on iPad. And because we were thinking about it all the time as we were working on the PC version, it translated really well. There wasn't a ton of things that were like, oh my gosh, we have to redo this whole thing because it's not going to work on iPad. I think the most challenging thing though was battle cry targeting. That ended up. I'm not sure that we knocked that out of the park on the PC version either, and maybe that was part of the problem. But that had the hardest transition over to iPad, and not to say that was super hard, but because really it was a pretty great fit for iPad, and things kind of naturally work on that platform really great. But that was probably the hardest thing, I think.
Okay, Gnimsh, you were gonna ask something?
Yeah, I mean, I wanted to say that the iPad version seems pretty good. Like in most cases, when you see games, they are being made as a light version, and you really made it as a one-to-one game. Like it's the same game. Like you play on PC, you play on iPad, it's still the same game, same account, same collection. So it transitions really well. I really want to see like in the future what will be dominant, like which platform, because like it's the first Blizzard iPad game. So if you're going to explore that market, like how will it be for the other games, or like for Hearthstone, like will iPad be the key platform where people play Hearthstone actually?
Yeah, that will be super interesting, especially when we go into Android and phones, because those platforms are much bigger than anything else. And I don't know. I mean, is that going to be where people like to play Hearthstone most? I mean, it's very different, right? Like it's this as opposed to on your PC monitor.
That's kind of what I was getting at, is that with the really limited real estate on a phone, a lot of us have fat fingers,
Yep.
and I'm wondering if it's gonna play a role into possibly changing the UI for it.
The phone. The reason why we didn't just go iPhone and iPad right away is because the phone takes, unlike the iPad, where it's a very similar experience to PC. We're going to have to think about what needs to change for that phone thing. And we're working a lot on it, and I don't have any concerns. It's going to be amazing. I mean, being able to play Hearthstone anywhere at any time is so exciting. But it takes more, especially things like the collection manager, managing your deck. Those little as UI elements start to get very tiny, that's when I think we'll have the biggest challenge making it for the phone. And we want to make sure that it feels great there. We want to make sure that we're not just taking what we have and saying, okay, well, let's put it on the phone. It's good enough. Like we care a lot about interface. I mean, I don't know if you guys can tell that the interface is really important to us. That's actually, I think Eric Dodds' focus on keeping and Derek Sakamoto, their focus on keeping a simple, easy to understand interface is one of the reasons why Hearthstone is so accessible. Even aside from the actual gameplay, just being able to like navigate the menus and build a deck in a way that doesn't make your head explode. I mean, that was something that actually was really hard. It was making a collection manager that was easy to use.
Yep.
and then doing that again for like a fourth of the real estate.
Right.
Like, it's really challenging, but I think we're gonna knock it out of the park again there, because we have super talented guys working on it.
Yeah, definitely fully confident you guys are going to be able to do it. And I actually think the touch, even just the interaction on the iPad, is more natural than it is on the PC. And I feel it's a card game, right? So it kind of feels more interactive when you're moving your hands.
Totally.
It's just, there's a lot of very natural things about it that really makes it conducive for the game. So it's awesome. Really, really excited about it. I kind of want to move on to another piece of news, which was, I guess you guys announced more details on the World Championships. And just how that's going to work. And I kind of want to start off, we can talk a little bit more about the details, but what's your thoughts on just the whole esport thing? Because it's starting to blow up right now. I mean, it was the whole BlizzCon thing, it was kind of eye-opening. Everybody was like, oh, wow, this could actually get viewers and stuff. But now I think it's in full scale blowing up. So what's your thoughts on it?
Well, I mean, I'm sure you could guess. I'm super excited.
Well, yeah, but
it's great. It's something, and we say this all the time. It's something that we thought could happen, because we were playing it at and this still happens today. Someone will pop up a game like, okay, I'm about to head home. I'll play a game of Hearthstone, and then like whoosh, 20 people show up and watch, and like, oh no, don't do that. What are you doing? And it's really conducive to watching people play. And actually, Eric Dodds calls this the over-the-shoulder experience. We knew that we could make a really accessible card game, but if it doesn't look fun, then you're like, why try it? And so make it like, and the artist did such a crazy job making this game really like look awesome, and that adds to the easy to understand gameplay. And so you can watch, even if you don't play Hearthstone, you can watch it and be entertained by watching pro level players play this game. And that's, we kind of suspected that could happen because of the way that people were responding to it at work. And then when it started actually happening, we were like, "Oh my gosh, this is awesome!" It's so exciting for us because like those games are so fun to watch. It's so exciting, and even just the part that we had in making any of it possible is so cool that it's great. So I'm super excited about all of the esports things that are happening and that are continuing to happen, and even the stuff that have a part in, like the World Championships.
Yep. Gnimsh, I think you had a question about World Championships.
Yeah, obviously, like World Championship is relevant to my interests. So I'm super happy, super excited that we will have a World Champion this year, because the World Champion is really important to every card game. So the question will be, are you planning, are there any plans on a prize pool for World Champs? Or are we fighting for glory and honor?
I actually don't know about their plans for that stuff, but I guess we'll find out. I'm sure they'll announce more details as we get closer to the event.
Yeah.
Still, it's super exciting. Like fighting for the title, it's great. So you announced like also Fireside Gatherings. Like it seems like those Blizzard is interested in those small events as well. Like big scale event, World Champs, small scale event, Fireside Gatherings, getting people together, play and compete actually, because this is when people play together. We are not cooperating, we are competing.
Right. Well, I think the Fireside Gatherings thing is really interesting. It's very unique in this world. You know, like obviously other card games have kind of analogs to this by necessity, because you have to play with other people in meat space. And as far as video games go, especially digital card games, this is not a thing that happens. And with our ability to go onto iPad, we thought, well, how can we get people to interact? Is that fun? Is that cool? We think it might be really cool. We have memories of playing card games and going to game stores and interacting with people and meeting new friends. And we were like, oh, wouldn't it be awesome if that was the kind of thing that Hearthstone could be for people as well? Is this opportunity to meet people who have the same passions and interests as you, and you could get help with a deck, or maybe you want to see what other people are playing, or talk about your strategies or your stories. Could this be that thing for us? So that's what we're trying, and I'm super interested to hear if I know ChanManV, you're running a Fireside Gathering over there.
Yep, South Florida, going to be doing it. Yeah, I was telling Lindsay, I'm totally an advocate of this, and I've been wanting to do, just kind of start this movement again about just, bringing back BYOCs, but call this BYOTs, right? Given that it's a tablet kind of thing. But yeah, I think it's all about that. We got portable computers now, and we can just meet anywhere. And there's something great about having physical social interaction, right, between all these folks. We've kind of been totally into this online interaction these days, which is great. We have all kinds of easy and just great ways to chat, and even like Skype, which is cool, but it's not the same as being in the same place, getting a chance to enjoy yourself, even in just like a place where you can eat and have drinks and stuff and play the game, right? So this thing is awesome. Like I really, really love it.
Well, tell me how your event goes. If anybody else goes to a Fireside Gathering, tweet at me or post in the forums, or let me know somehow what you thought and if it's cool, because I think this is potentially just the beginning, and we could even do more with this type of thing. And we're trying to support it within the game by offering like the card back and things like that, and we could continue to do even more stuff like that in the future. So I really just want to hear, what do people think? Is this awesome? Should we do more of this? And that's kind of what the feedback I'm looking for.
Yeah,
I guess I will be enjoying Fireside Gatherings like in 2 days in Romania, going to DreamHack. So
oh, nice.
Yeah, definitely. And for those of you who don't know about the Fireside Gathering, it's basically like April 26th. There's going to be more in the future. You can do it whenever you want, but April 26th is kind of the collective the entire community trying to do a fireside gathering in whatever location, and just gathering on that one day and having a good time and seeing how many folks will get together and that sort of thing. So
Yeah, I mean, it could be any size really. You can get
Yeah.
two of your buddies together and
Yeah,
go
that's
to
cool.
Starbucks and
McDonald's, man. It's cool.
yeah, or anywhere and play some games or just over to your house. Like it doesn't matter, and just play some Hearthstone.
Absolutely. So, well, I think we're about out of time with you, Ben, but it's amazing. I thought you were going to blow our mind. What's the what answer was supposed to blow our mind, dude?
I forgot to tell you.
Yeah,
One of you guys sent me a couple of the questions you were going to ask beforehand, and
Yeah.
one of them said that you said Priest is probably the least popular class on the
yes,
ladder.
yes.
And I was like, okay, I know you're good players because Priest is only the least popular at the very top sliver of gameplay.
That's
If
right.
you look at the entire ladder, Priest is like the fourth most played class. So it's
Really?
I thought that I knew you would be surprised by that, but it's hard to when because you're playing at like a thin band
Yeah.
usually of skill level, right? Like I mean I know
Yeah.
Trump is going up the ladder over and over again, but
various
most
classes.
people play it at this thin band and they don't see all this huge other variety of classes and decks that are being played out there. So just a little insight into what the rest of the Hearthstone community is experiencing wherever they're playing.
Fourth.
I gotta admit, I think I was in charge of asking that, and I missed out on it because I didn't think that Priest was going to be the least popular. Like, I imagine Mage is pretty popular also, on not on the higher levels, but on the lower levels, perhaps.
Well, it's very interesting. It's just different, like wherever you look, and it's really cool to have all these back end stats to see. Like, oh, this is starting to come up here, and anyway, I love that kind of thing.
Yeah, absolutely. But pleasure having you on, Ben. This is amazing.
Yes.
You are awesome, man. I just love I've always
Bonus
enjoyed
question?
watching your interviews. And actually, that's right. Gnimsh has a closing question. I forgot.
Oh,
about
great.
This. Yeah.
Do I have it? Oh, I have it actually. Yeah.
Yes.
So
Yes,
Ben, how did you enjoy Elite Tour and Chieftain being there on a big scene on IDM?
On a big stage, man. Big stage.
That was awesome. That was fantastic. I love it. I expect to see it again at the BlizzCon World Championships. I assume you're going to make it. So I hope you busted
I
out.
certainly hope so.
Style points. And then, Trump also has the hungry crab also. Yeah.
That was amazing. That was a great. that was a
Definitely
great
good stuff. But why don't we do some shout outs, thank yous? You have any shout outs you want to do, Ben?
Oh, yeah, I would like to shout out to my homies on Team 5 and all my other friends who have just realized Hearthstone's a thing on iPad and are texting me asking what deck to build, and all of my other homies at Blizzard. And you guys, I really appreciate all of the incredible streams and stories you guys are telling on your streams and the show. The show is, I love this stuff.
Awesome. Gnimsh, you want to do some
Thank you.
shout outs, maybe?
Yeah, obviously. Shout out to the team, shout out to all the friends, shout out to all the fans that are following me and supporting me as well. Shout out to my parents who support me as well, and shout out to the DreamHack organizers. They were really helpful with everything. And big shout out to Blizzard for an awesome game. Thank you, Ben, and thanks to the team.
Trump?
I'll shout out Eric Dodd since you mentioned that he's in charge of making the interface look good. I think that's so important. It's really what sets this game apart from a lot of the other games that I've tried that are in the same card game genre. And I'm glad that it's fun to watch. It's like people come to watch. And I owe Team 5 that, so way to go.
That's right. Awesome. Well, I'll round things out by, again, just giving you guys props and, you guys... I've gotten to know you guys over the past few months and quickly becoming some of my favorite people at Blizzard. And I know you guys work hard and really love the fact that the Hearthstone team, acts as this kind of separate small entity and things just start coming out at a faster rate than we normally see from Blizzard, which is amazing. And I hope it continues. And again, Ben, hopefully we can have you on again sometime.
Yes, I would love to.
It'd be awesome. But folks that just tuning in and you missed the beginning of the show, the VODs will be up on youtube.com/ChanManV. Sure to follow all of us on Twitter at ChanManV, at NimshTV, at BD Brode, at TrumpSC. And follow this channel too if you enjoy the show or any of my other shows. Tomorrow, guys, Deck Wars is going to be at 10 p.m. Eastern again. It's going to be ECOP versus Dark Wanix, so check that out. It's my show match series I do each and every week. But that's going to be it for Value Town this week, guys. So until next week, we will see you next time. Later.